Welcome to this next chapter in the Haas certification video series. My name is Andrew, and today we'll be talking about the screen and keyboard layout here on the Haas control. In particular, we'll talk about the functional arrangement of the keys, what each section does, and what each of the specific keys does. We'll also look at the display screen to see the results of our keystrokes. Now, with over 200,000 machines running around the world, it's safe to say that the Haas control is a standard. Once you understand how to work it, you have a pathway to using one of the most prevalent machines found in shops today worldwide. Now, we'll start here, at the pendant. The Haas control is the computer system that runs the machine. The big cabinet in the back contains most of the serious electronics. But the pendant here is the user interface portion. Now, two features probably catch your attention right away. You already know about the emergency stop button, and this is the jog handle. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. We've already discussed the power on and power off buttons, as well as cycle start and feed hold in previous videos. So now, let's get acquainted with the keyboard. At first glance, you'll be tempted to think, whoa, that's a lot of buttons. And you're right, there are 132 of them here. But once you break the keyboard down into different sections, you'll see that it's quite easy to navigate. The keyboard is actually comprised of 8 sections: alpha, numeric, cursor, function, display, mode, jog, and override. So let's get started and see what each section does. A few of these you already know. The alpha section has letter keys arranged in alphabetical order, with some punctuation and a shift key. The numeric section is just like the number pad on a calculator or a computer keyboard, with the addition of the space, cancel, and enter keys. As you probably guessed, we use the alpha and numeric keys to input all the numbers and letters into the control. It's how we write programs and enter values for everything we control on the machine. The cursor section contains the familiar 4 directional arrows, the home and end keys, and page up and page down. These 8 keys allow us to navigate through the various menus and data we'll be using and changing as we work with the machine. When you start the machine, the first place you'll be headed is to the 11 keys in the function section, particularly this top row. This here is the reset key. It's super important. You use it to clear alarms, clear text, and reset the control for machine operation. Anytime you press the emergency stop button, you'll need to press the reset button to exit the e-stop state and reset the machine. Next up is the power up key. When you start the machine, pressing power up 0 returns the axes and gets the control ready to go. If the machine gets interrupted during a tool change, it can't run until the tool change is completed. The recover key is here to give the operator an easy way to start the recover process and get the tool changer back to home position so work can continue. The 4 function keys, F1 through F4, are all multi-use. Where you are in the operational system determines their function. These outside 2 keys in the lower row are used in setting up tool and part offsets. You'll learn more about this as you become a more experienced operator. Now these middle 2 buttons control the tool changer. The next tool button loads the next tool in the carousel in preparation for setting a new tool offset. And the tool release button releases the tool from the spindle. There's also a tool release button here on the spindle head as well. That's the function section. To summarize, the buttons here all have to do with preparing the machine to operate. The display and mode sections of the keypad both control what you see in the upper 2 quadrants of the screen. Depending on what display key and mode key was last pressed, you'll see a different set of screens. As you become more familiar with the control, you'll find you'll need different screens at different times. But for now, let's use the keys in the display section to look at the screen options that are available. First is program. This gives us information related to the active program that's loaded in memory and visible here in the left-hand window. Position tells you the physical locations of each enabled axis. I can use the cursor keys to move between the program, distance to go, machine, and operator positions. Each of these shows us the position of X, Y, and Z relative to a different reference point on the machine. These will become familiar after some time using the machine, but to start out with, you'll probably find that the distance to go screen is the most useful. This screen shows us how much farther a program to move has to go before reaching its endpoint, and we use it to check that our program is moving to the right distance from the workpiece. We'll look at how you use the distance to go screen in other videos in this series. Offsets opens up the menu system containing your work and tool offset numbers. The tool offsets are the number values that tell the machine exactly how far each tool sticks out from the end of the spindle. And the work offset is the number value that tells the machine where the workpiece is in relation to the machine's home position. Current Commands displays a huge menu of functions and settings. There are tabs in here for things like devices, timers, macros, advanced tool management, and calculators. It's a long list, and you'll become familiar with these menus as you work with the control. But for now, none of these are important while we're just learning how to run the machine. Alarms displays the current alarm, lets you review the machine's alarm history, and contains a list of alarm codes. Diagnostics brings you a menu system for features, compensation, diagnostics, and maintenance. Under each tab is a ton of information on how the machine is set up and how it's running. Settings brings you to another menu system. This one focused on the options and functions you can customize to fine-tune the machine's performance for the kinds of machining you're doing. And the Help key does just that. It opens up the Help menu system. Each of these icons will take you to screens with more in-depth information and help for each topic. Let's say we had questions about the G84 tapping cycle. We type G84 on the input line here and press F1. This gives us a list of search results we can access. I'll click on this entry here, and it gives me more in-depth information about the G84 tapping cycle G-code. Now, these 30 keys make up the mode section. Once again, this might seem complex, but it's really pretty simple once you break down what each of the 6 modes does. Here on the left are the 6 mode keys. The 4 keys to the right of each mode key are there to control what you're doing inside each of the 6 modes. The Edit key is what you use to change an existing program. The keys to the right let you insert, alter, and delete code, while the Undo key lets you back up and reverse changes you've made. The Memory key puts the machine into its operational state. The modifier keys control how the machine runs the program. This is the mode where you run the program you currently have loaded. The Graphics key changes the display to show a graphical representation of the program, so you can check if the program is running correctly before you actually start cutting metal. MDI stands for Manual Data Input, and MDI mode is sort of like the Notepad application on your computer. In MDI, you can just start writing a program from scratch, and you can run that program from MDI mode just like you can from memory mode. Once you're happy with how it's working, you can save it to memory so you can use it again later. The buttons to the right here turn the coolant on and off and rotate the tool changer in either direction. And the handle scroll button allows you to control the cursor with the jog wheel on certain menus. Handle jog transfers movement of the machine axes to the jog wheel we looked at in the beginning. The 4 modifier keys let you set the distance the machine axis travels with each click of the jog wheel. I control which axis I'm jogging by selecting it here in the jog section of the keypad. So to start jogging the x-axis, I'll select the axis by pressing X+. Then I'll select how quickly I want to move it over here, and then I use the jog wheel to actually make the movement. The important thing to remember here is that when you jog the machine, you should always start with the 0.001 button until you're very familiar with jogging the machine axes. If you choose the 0.01 or 0.1 increment buttons, the machine can make large, quick movements. And if the spindle is close to, say, a vise, it's much easier to crash the machine. The zero return key lets you automatically return each axis to its home position. The modifiers let you choose one or all axes and where each one goes. Home G28 quickly returns the axes to their home positions. It will always return Z axis to home first before X and Y begin to move. And the origin key is used in many situations and different menus to zero out values and entries. We'll cover some of these situations in other episodes. The last mode key is List Program. This is where you'll find all the programs that are loaded into the machine's memory or any external storage like a USB stick, external hard drive, or a network location. List Program is also where we load the program we want to use into active memory. To do this, we arrow up or down to the program we want and then press Select Program. And we see that the program now appears in the Active Program window here on the left. Besides loading programs to the list here, we have additional options for what we want to do with these programs. The back arrow takes you to the screen you were on before your current screen. And if you've just used the back arrow, then the forward arrow will move you back to the screen you were on before. These are like the back and forward buttons on your web browser. In the mode section, we saw the handle jog key, which activates the jog handle. These 9 keys here in the middle select the axis you want to move when you're in handle jog mode. We're already somewhat familiar with the X, Y, and Z keys. Now, the reason there is a plus and minus key for each axis is for when you're using the jog lock key here in the middle. When you press jog lock, you'll see the jog lock icon come up at the bottom here. Jog lock is now active. Now, when you press one of the axis letter keys, that axis will move continuously until you press jog lock again or the axis reaches the end of travel. When I press the X plus key, the table will move in the X positive direction. And when I press the X minus key, the table will move in the X negative direction. This is an easy way to jog longer distances without going crazy spinning the jog wheel. Also, if you hold down any of these axis keys, after a moment the axis will begin moving continuously until you release the key. The speed of a jog lock move is controlled by whichever increment key was last pressed over here in the handle jog section. Just remember, when you're using jog lock, the larger the speed increment, the faster the axis will move and the easier it is to crash into something. Here on the left side, these 3 keys give you manual control over the chip conveyor. The 3 keys on the right let you manually control the P-Cool and auxiliary coolant systems. This last quadrant down here is important for both the operator and the setup person. The keys here at the top of the group are used to override the current spindle speed and feed rate. They either speed things up or slow things down. But you need to know what you're doing or you could end up damaging the part you're machining, the cutting tool, or even the machine itself. That's why these override keys are typically only used by the setup person or more advanced machinists. The operator shouldn't be using these buttons until the supervisor has given the OK. You can also change the direction of the spindle rotation and stop the spindle with these keys. These also shouldn't be used until your supervisor has explained when you should be using them. Finally, we come to the rapid override keys. As we saw in an earlier lesson, the rapid override keys are important for the operator to learn. They allow the operator to slow down how quickly the machine moves as it approaches the part. So there is time to check that everything looks safe when you're running the first part from a batch. So that's the Haas control keyboard. We looked at each of the 8 sections: alpha, numeric, cursor, function, display, mode, jog, and override. And we looked at some of the ways these sections interact with what we see displayed on the screen and what the machine is doing during that time. The Haas control is intuitive and easy to use, and you'll find that it doesn't take long to learn how to get around inside the menus and get to the functions you need to run your work. Thanks for watching.